Like many of you have figured out through these COVID days, our large extended family that spans from Florida all the way up to Oregon and Washington State gathers together every 2 weeks for a family Zoom call, a time to just connect and check in with one another and see what's going on. And like many of your families, you've discovered, why is this something that we had to wait for COVID to figure out? But we've found that time of gathering and telling stories to be such a rich way that we're kind of surviving these days and maybe even thriving in them. And I think about every time we gather how we are one big, audacious family, but we have all kinds of different households that are represented in that family. Some of us, like myself, by myself in my home, others of us, 5 folks under one roof. It doesn't matter how the configuration of our household works. We gather together to remember who we are and how we live in love with one another. And I think about how Arvada United Methodist Church has been doing that for over 50 years and even longer than that. There was a time back in our original building where before the congregation moved out here to our Carr Street location, the congregation made a huge decision. It was a decision to be one congregation, but with multiple worshiping communities. That decision was made so long ago, and what we know in church life is that decision is critically important to congregations' ability to either be stunted in their growth and die, or to continue to grow. So I'm so glad Arvada United Methodist Church made a decision over 50 years ago, and some of you are a part of that decision, to multiply the communities of the congregation, but still remain one faithful congregation, faithful to its mission and its vision to serve Arvada and the region around us. We get just another opportunity as we transition out of these COVID days and move into what life will look like in our worship services, probably more in the fall and into the winter of 2021. We get an opportunity to figure out again what the congregation started figuring out long ago and long before most of us. We've already figured out here how to be one congregation with many small communities and worshiping communities under that one umbrella that is Arvada United Methodist Church. And we're going to be given an opportunity to do it yet again. This time, the way our family, if you will, our church family will gather together will be not only with our regular experiences of in-building and in-person worship that many of us long to get back to, and we hope to be able to fully get back to that practice into the fall of 2021 and into the winter time. But in addition to those communities that have worshiped in-building and in-person, we now have understood another community that is vital to our life as a congregation. That's the community who will watch the services that we are a part of on Sunday mornings in building and in person by live stream. Those that may have remembered or love our in-building and in-person worship, but for some reason can't attend on that Sunday in person. Maybe they're recovering from a surgery, maybe they're homebound, maybe they're traveling. And so we'll have a live stream option that will allow folks to be able to feel like they are part of our Sunday morning in-building and in-person experience, and to be able to watch from where they are. But there's yet another community that has emerged through these COVID days, and that's a fully online worshiping community. These are folks who aren't even living geographically in our region or our area, or some who might, but who have chosen to experience the worship and the mission of making room at the table for all with Arvada United Methodist Church. From their homes or places of worship, perhaps in our community, perhaps in Chicago or the middle of Kansas or on the West Coast. These are folks who have said, we've looked around for church communities, and we have found an inclusiveness and a diversity and a commitment to growing in God's grace that we love with Arvada United Methodist Church, and we want to be a part of your giving, worshiping, and serving community. So once again, we have a new generation of opportunities to be one congregation with several different communities. And one of those communities is not better or worse than the other. And through the gifts of technology, we have an opportunity to reach these folks in new ways. Not as one congregation is, or as one community is more important than the other, but finding new ways to connect with a community of faith that gathers in God's grace and God's love and seeks to make room at the table of God's grace for all. So you might be thinking, come on, Reverend Amy, when is this all going to be known to us? We're impatient, we're tired, we want to be back at church again. How is this all going to work? Well, by April 4th, Easter Sunday, we have a commitment to roll out at that time the plans for our worshiping experiences that will be looking more like a menu of options than any singular one choice. By Easter, we will roll out the plan beginning for worship services and our gathering experiences starting May 2nd all the way through the end of August. We're confident we're going to have much better data and information about where COVID is at in the next 8 to 10 weeks. We are going to have much more information about the vaccine rates and where people are and being able to access and be a part of in-person and in-building gatherings again. You know, one of the greatest tributes to the work that we have made as a congregation through these COVID days and the resilience and faithfulness we have practiced is that there has not been one COVID case connected to the ministry and to the extensions of ministry of our Valley United Methodist Church. Just imagine that. We've heard the horror stories of congregations who got together too early with choir experiences or other gatherings, and multiple people and family systems were impacted with COVID. We cannot trace one single COVID case to the ministries or the extensions of ministries from our Valley United Methodist Church. That's incredible, and you all are to be commended for making that possible by doing the heavy and hard work of experiencing and understanding worship in our life together in new ways to make that possible. So you might be also wondering, how are we making the decisions that will roll out at the beginning of April? Well, we're getting informed and gathering information from a variety of ways. We continue to stay connected to our health officials and reports and statistics that are telling us what the trends and expectations will be around COVID. We also have gathered a group called Next. This is a group of clergy, staff, and laity of about 14 or 15 folks who have been instrumental in making worship happen not only through COVID days, but in our life prior to COVID. And they are gathering in teams focusing on technology and communications and worship design and outreach that are helping us imagine and think about how to create a menu of options for worship, especially in these COVID transition days. Some of you have been vaccinated and you're ready to get here and ready to be a part of an in-person and building experience. Others of you are not getting vaccinated because of your age or because of other issues, and so you might be a little bit more reluctant. We only on our church staff right now have one member of our church staff who has currently gotten vaccinated. So what does that mean when we have folks that are vaccinated who want to be in the pews, but our worship leaders and pastors are not yet eligible to be vaccinated? For that reason, we are discerning with our Next team different options for worship so that wherever we are in our readiness, we can access in-building, in-person worship, online live stream worship, or a fully online option. Another thing that we will be doing that we need your help on is in March we will have an online and in hard copy sent worship survey that we will be sending out to you, asking you about your readiness, asking you about your desire to experience worship in new ways. You know, the reminder again is that we aren't the first to do this work. We're building on generations of this great congregation and congregations all around us. who have asked this question of how we can be one growing congregation as we meet the needs and the differentiated experiences and readiness post-COVID and into our life together in the fall and in the winter of 2021 and beyond. I want to celebrate and thank you again from the bottom of my heart for your faithfulness and your resilience and your patience through this time. I want to thank our amazing staff who has pivoted and made ministry happen and especially meaningful worship experiences through these COVID days. I want to remind us all that God is with us in this wilderness. And perhaps you have already discovered, as I have, that even with our big questions and our painful frustrations, we are learning a whole lot of how to be a church in the 21st century. We are learning a whole lot of that wisdom that AUMC learned many generations ago. How to plant the witness and the Word of God in Jesus Christ and our graceful hospitality as a congregation in the new soil of today. Thanks for continuing with us on this journey. You can expect to hear more from us with the worship survey as well as the rollout of information as it's informed by everyone in the congregation as we look forward to rolling out our plans for May 2nd all the way through August with a worship menu that will be shared at the early part of April, and certainly as we gather for the celebrations and victories of Easter. One of those celebrations, I promise, on Easter will be an outdoor, in-person gathering, socially distanced, so we can celebrate how God has helped us to rise from the ashes and to celebrate the power of the resurrection, strength and hope that keeps us going. Thanks so much.